Today we will see the lesson A Grain as Big as Hens Egg. It is written by Loyal Style. One day some children found in a ravine a thing shaped like a grain, with groove down the middle but as large as hen's egg. A passerby saw it and bought it from the children for a penny. He took it to the town and sold it to the king as a rarity. The king called his wise men and told them to find out about the thing. The wise men pondered over it but could not find any answer. One day, when the thing was lying on a windowsill, a hen flew in and pecked at it and made a hole in it. Then everyone saw that it was a grain of rye. The wise men went to the king and said, "It is a grain of rye." The king surprised and ordered the learned to find out when and where such a grain had been grown. Then they searched in their books but could not find nothing about it. They returned to the king and said, "There is nothing about it in our books. You have to ask the peasants. Some of them may have heard about it from their fathers." The king gave orders that an old peasant be brought before him. He attends brought an old blunt ash pail and toothless man to him. He tottered in the help of 2 crutches. The king showed him the grain, but the old peasant could not hardly see it. He took it, however, and felt it with his hand. The king asked him, "Can you not tell us where grain like these grow? Have you ever bought or shown any of it in your fields?" The old peasant was quite deaf, so with great difficulty he understood what the king had said. He answered, "I have never bought or reaped any such grain. When we bought rye, the grain were as small as they are now. But father might have heard where such a grain grown." So the king sent the old peasant's father. The father came walking with 1 crutch, and the king showed him the grain, and the old peasant took a good look at it. The king asked the same question. The father was had of hearing. He could hear better than his son. He said, "I have never bought, sowed, or reaped any grain like this. Money was not yet in use in our time. So everyone grew his own rye. He shared with one another when needed. Our grain was larger and yielded more flour than the present day grain, but I never saw any like these or I have, however, heard my father say that in his time the grain was larger and yielded more flour than us. The king said further, old man's father, the peasant's father, walked without crutches. He could see, hear, and speak clearly. The king showed him the grain. The grandfather said, "It is long since I saw such a fine grain," and bit a piece off and tasted it. "It is the very same kind," he added. The king asked him the same question. The old man replied, "A rye like this used to grow everywhere in my time. I lived on rye like this in my youth and feed ours on it. We used to sow, reap, and thresh grain like this. We knew nothing of money, so we never bought or sold. Each man had enough rye his own." The king asked, "When did you grow grain like these?" The grandfather answered, "My field was God's earth. Wherever I plowed, there was my field. Land was free, labor was the only thing men called their own." Answer the two more questions, commanded the king. First, the king, the first, why did the earth cease to bear such grain? And the second is, why does your grandson walk with you, and your son with one, and you with none? The old man answered, "Today men have caste to labor, and they depend on others' labor. But we lived according to the God's law. We consumed what was our own and did not covet what